My husband schemed to make me lose my pediatric nursing job so I could stay home and take care of his paralyzed grandmother. I gave birth to our children, managed the household, and served as their unpaid housekeeper for 10 years, even exhausting the dowry worth $1 million that my parents had given me. Once I was no longer of use, my husband tried to kill me and then married a woman his father preferred. The next time I opened my eyes, I found myself reborn back to the day my in-laws handed me a housekeeper-style rulebook. If you can't even meet these basic requirements, how dare you live in our spacious 1,000-square-foot home for free? I replied. A private caregiver and housekeeper would charge $2,000 per month. Venmo or PayPal? Oh, and by the way, housekeepers aren't obligated to have children. The raging fire quickly consumed my body, which was trapped in the driver's seat. Yet there he stood, my husband Ethan, who had once vowed eternal love to me, now holding his mistress Olivia in his arms as he watched with a sinister smile while I burned alive. The next moment, I felt everything spin, and then I heard a harsh, angry voice scolding me. You've lost your job, and now you refuse to come home and take care of the paralyzed grandmother, cooking and cleaning for the family. Do you think you can just freeload here? The Carter family doesn't support freeloaders, I jolted awake, startled. The overbearing, calculating old man in front of me was my father-in-law, Leo Carter. Wait, hadn't I just died in a fiery car crash caused by brake failure? Before I could process what was happening, an A4 sheet of paper titled Carter Family Rulebook was shoved into my hand. Carter Family Rulebook for Daughters-in-Law 1. The daughter-in-law must care for the eldest member of the family until relieved by another daughter-in-law. 2 men are strictly prohibited from entering the kitchen. Women are responsible for preparing 3 meals a day with 4 dishes and a soup. 3. Every meal must include beef, lamb, pork, or chicken. If the cost exceeds $10.15 per meal, the daughter-in-law must cover the difference. 4 daughters-in-law must show utmost respect to elders and husbands. Talking back is forbidden. 5. A child must be born every year, and sons are required until the quota is fulfilled. Leo asserted his authority. Only good daughters-in-law are welcome in the Carter family. As long as you strictly follow these rules, you'll be considered a good daughter-in-law. I couldn't believe my eyes as I glanced at the date on my phone. I had been reborn to the day Ethan and I returned from our honeymoon, the same day my in-laws handed me the housekeeper-style rulebook. At that moment, my mother-in-law, Autumn Carter, called out in her shrill voice, "Olivia, come here." She had added a small bed next to the paralyzed grandmother's, saying it was meant for me. On your first day with us, you've already passed our test. We're very satisfied with you. You can now officially begin caring for Grandma. Ah, I remembered now. The first time I visited their home as a guest, the entire family suddenly had errands to run, leaving me alone to care for the paralyzed grandmother all day. Later, I learned that this was their way of testing me. After I got married, they took it further, demanding I quit my job as a pediatric nurse to stay home and take care of Grandma. Of course, I had firmly refused. But then, out of nowhere, someone accused me of soliciting bribes from patient families. The hospital ended up finding an envelope containing $1,000 in my locker. The incident was leaked online, and as a result, I was fired from the hospital. Back then, Ethan painted a rosy picture, promising that even if I lost my job, he would hand over his entire paycheck to support me for life. But reality was starkly different. For the next 10 years, I bore children, managed the household, and dedicated myself to caring for his paralyzed grandmother until her death. I served as their unpaid housekeeper for a decade, even depleting the $1 million dowry my parents had gifted me to support his entire family. And then, when I was no longer of any use, Ethan sabotaged the brakes on my car. It was the phone call before the crash that revealed just how calculating and ruthless Ethan truly was. "Olivia, let's get a divorce. I want to marry Vivian. You know Dad has always liked her. I made a mistake 10 years ago by letting her go. I'm not going to miss this chance again." He said this to make my death look like an emotionally charged accident. That way, he wouldn't have to spend a dime and would only face mild moral condemnation. When I saw him holding Vivian in the crowd, smirking as I burned alive, everything clicked. As a mechanic, Ethan sabotaging the brakes without leaving a trace was effortless. But now, fate had given me a second chance. If I didn't avenge the woman I was in my past life, I'd be letting myself and the heavens down. They owed me, and I intended to collect. Too, seeing me dazed, my father-in-law Leo, who loved flaunting his authority, barked as expected. "What are you standing around for? Go wipe Grandma down and don't forget to head to the farmer's market to buy groceries. Don't waste time, dinner won't cook itself." In my previous life, I foolishly believed that losing my job right after the wedding had embarrassed Ethan and his family, making them resent me. I thought their harsh treatment was justified. I naively believed that if I worked hard, showed filial piety, and earned their favor, they would eventually change their minds about me. As for those 5 rules back then, I thought they were trivial in a marriage built on love. I assumed they were just the daily duties of a full-time housewife. Besides, my parents' rental property generated income, so even if I was unemployed, I could still supplement our finances. I had no qualms about agreeing to their demands. Little did I know, I was nothing but a fool. The mere thought of them smirking behind my back made me want to slap myself twice. But I wasn't in a hurry this time around. There would be tears on their faces soon enough. With that thought, I sank into the couch, making no move to act. "Are you all done talking? Now it's my turn." First, I'm currently only suspended pending investigation. Once the truth emerges and clears my name, I'll still be returning to work. Second, I don't need anyone to support me, and I'm not going to be anyone's unpaid housekeeper. And third, your entire family is capable of taking care of Grandma. Why should I be the only one responsible for her care? At this, my father-in-law shot a fierce glare at Ethan. Intimidated by his dad, Ethan quickly interrupted me. "My mom's getting old. It's about time you took over so she can enjoy her golden years. Otherwise, why do you think I spent so much money marrying you?" Hearing the same words I had in my previous life, I no longer felt the need to sacrifice myself for the so-called harmony of the family. This family wasn't worth it. I retorted confidently, "Ensuring your mom enjoys her later years is a responsibility for you and your siblings. It's your turn to take over. As for the dowry, you seem to have forgotten. Out of the $28,000 dowry, $15,000 went toward your car's down payment, $10,000 was spent on the wedding, and my family even provided an apartment that rents for $2,500 a month. Honestly, your family profited, didn't it?" The usually kind, understanding, and submissive wife had suddenly changed her demeanor, and Ethan was left staring at me in disbelief in front of his family. His thick skin, however, quickly recovered, and he turned the blame on me. "We're family now. What's the point of being so petty?" My mother-in-law, tears streaming down her face, tried to guilt-trip me. "Olivia, you're still young and don't understand the responsibilities of a daughter-in-law. I don't blame you. But can you really bear to let an elderly woman who's worked her whole life continue to toil for a few more years?" In the past, I didn't realize that Autumn was a master manipulator and a professional victim. Her tearful complaints used to melt my heart, but not anymore. How exactly is she working for me? Because of these so-called family rules. I waved the A4 sheet of paper listing the household rules and laughed mockingly. "Your family isn't a royal palace. Setting such invasive and ridiculous rules, do you really think that's appropriate?" My father-in-law slammed the table in anger. "I'm the head of this household. What I say goes." Ethan whispered for me to stop talking, then tried to appease his father with a sycophantic smile. "Olivia might just need some time to adjust. Why don't we let Mom bathe Grandma tonight?" I muttered under my breath. This family feels more like a pirate ship, with the head of the household playing the role of captain. My father-in-law's face darkened to the color of charcoal. "Go buy groceries." Ethan, clearly nervous, shoved me out the door. Then, with a face that feigned concern, he warned me in a hushed tone, "If you want to live a good life, I suggest you talk less and do more." Ethan and I had met through a matchmaker. At the time, the matchmaker boasted about their family living in a luxurious villa, and how both the family elders and Ethan himself had an impeccable reputation in the community. My parents even visited their town to investigate, and everything seemed to check out. After a year of dating, Ethan, with his refined appearance and polite demeanor, seemed perfect, always giving compliments, bringing flowers, and offering emotional support. There were no apparent red flags. It wasn't until after the wedding that I learned the villa was actually a large house built with pooled family funds. To get to our unit, we had to pass through the first and second floors, which belonged to Ethan's uncles. As for their good reputation, that was thanks to my father-in-law, Leo, who valued appearances above all else. He was all smiles and civility in public, but turned into a tyrannical dictator at home. Ethan also changed after the wedding, becoming distant and hot and cold with me. And as if the outrageous family rules weren't enough to process, Ethan dropped another bombshell on me. I just transferred you $5,000 for the month. Remember to pay the $1,500 for rent and the car loan. Leo came out of the house after us, his voice loud enough for the entire block to hear, as if lowering his volume would somehow diminish his authority. $5,000 is a significant amount. Any extra expenses are on you. From now on, you'll need to keep a detailed account of all grocery purchases, and meals are to be served on time: breakfast at 6, lunch at 11, and dinner at 6, no exceptions, or you'll face the consequences. This time, I chose silence, because it was time to act, not talk. In my previous life, I had asked Ethan why we had to pay rent while living in his own family home. He said it was a family tradition, meant as a form of filial piety. But he only gave me $5,000, while $3,500 went toward the car loan and $1,500 for rent. That left me covering the entire family's grocery bill. Not happening. Their house was only a 15-minute drive from the nearest city. I didn't buy a single grocery item. Instead, I headed straight to the city, dined at a restaurant, booked a hotel, and treated myself to a luxurious spa session. By the time I was done, I noticed over a dozen missed calls, all from Ethan's family. There were plenty of messages too. Ethan, Olivia, did you go hunting for groceries in Africa and get eaten by a jaguar? Furious Leo. It's 6:05 already. You've completely disrupted my schedule. What do you have to say for yourself? Autumn, it's 6:30. Don't tell me you're not coming back. A good person has a conscience, and a good daughter-in-law shouldn't be so selfish and immoral. I've been through this, and trust me, you're making a mistake. Go to a restaurant, buy food for the family, and come back to explain yourself. Are you upset that the $5,000 I gave you isn't enough for groceries? You still have $30,000 from the dowry in your account, don't you? Why should my salary be the only one spent? Ethan's voice carried a mix of accusation and entitlement. So he knew he didn't give me enough money for groceries, yet he still had the audacity to complain. What a calculating man. I sent a bold message in the family group chat without hesitation. Your family's daughter-in-law rules. As your daughter-in-law, I can't fulfill a single one of them. Even maids in ancient times weren't expected to subsidize their employers this much. Ethan's father, Morgan, immediately lost his temper and sent a voice message, shouting furiously, "You can't even meet these basic expectations, yet you're shameless enough to live in our 1,000-square-foot house for free." I typed my reply calmly, my fingers flying across the keyboard. If you want me to comply, it's possible. But the grocery expenses, essentials, and all household costs must be reimbursed, and I need to be paid a salary. As a private caregiver and housekeeper, my fee is $20,000 a month. Cash or PayPal? Also, housekeepers don't have any obligation to bear children. Make sure you understand that point. Morgan roared in frustration. Ethan, look at the kind of woman you've married, I casually replied. The kind of daughter-in-law that deals with tyrannical in-laws. Morgan was livid. He slapped Ethan on the head, shouting, "Are you mute? Say something." Thankfully, I'd upgraded the Wi-Fi at home as soon as I moved in. The internet company had gifted us a complimentary surveillance camera, which I placed in the living room. In my last life, I'd only used it to watch over Ethan's bedridden grandmother. But in this lifetime, it had a much greater purpose. I opened my phone and saw Morgan giving Ethan a hefty slap. Ethan winced in pain but didn't dare fight back. He feared his father too much. Yet he still sent me a voice message, venting his frustration. "Why aren't you coming home already?" Before marriage, I'd thought Ethan's behavior was filial piety. It turned out he was simply spineless. On the surveillance footage, Morgan berated me for being disrespectful and claimed I had no manners. He then stormed off in a fit of rage, threatening to visit my parents the next day to demand answers. In my last life, Leo often used such threats against me. My mother had a weak heart, my father cared too much about appearances, and my hot-headed brother was a ticking time bomb. I had felt deeply humiliated, and if the Zhao family had truly barged into my parents' home, chaos would have ensued. So I endured it for 10 years, sacrificing my pride and ultimately my life. But in this lifetime, I refused to make the same mistake. I confided in my brother about my situation and made sure my sister-in-law took our parents on a vacation ahead of time. My brother and his group of friends stayed behind to back me up, just in case the Zhao family dared come knocking. Meanwhile, I had another matter to investigate. The incident involving the red envelope was suspicious from every angle. How had the patient's family known which locker was mine? The screenshots they provided showed a conversation where I supposedly acknowledged and accepted the bribe. But I had never added the patient's family as contacts, not even once. I was certain the Zhao family had orchestrated the entire scheme to trap me into becoming their unpaid caregiver. This time, I was determined to uncover evidence and rewrite my fate. As I investigated further, the truth turned out to be even more despicable than I had imagined. When I arrived at the Tony's Grill House, run by the patient's husband, I encountered a familiar face. It was none other than Vivian, the daughter of Morgan's late friend and Ethan's longtime crush. Vivian, it turned out, was the niece of the patient. At this point in my life, I had only met Vivian once at my wedding. Plus, I usually wore a mask and nurse's uniform at work. Now that I was dressed casually and wearing makeup, she didn't recognize me at all. I pretended to be a regular customer and sat at a table near hers. The restaurant had decorative screens dividing the tables, and I happened to overhear a conversation that revealed secrets I hadn't known in my past life. "Vivian," her aunt said, "Ethan's been your loyal lapdog for years. You even got Morgan to be your godfather. Both of them have spent money on your training institute. Your uncle and I were worried you'd marry into the Zhao family, especially since they have an elderly relative who's paralyzed. But now that poor nurse fell into their trap, are you planning to cut ties with them?" Vivian's tone was smug and calculating. "Auntie, you're thinking too small. They're all just backup options to me. Backup options need to be kept on a leash. The Zhao family's auto repair shop makes a fortune, and my godfather spoils me like crazy. On Ethan's wedding day, his father gifted that housekeeper of a bride a 5,000 gold bracelet, but he gave me a 100,000 Carlier diamond ring." Vivian stretched out her hand to show off the sparkling diamond, and her aunt gasped in amazement. Vivian continued, her excitement mounting. "Ethan even transferred all his pre-marriage assets into 2 properties under his parents' names to stop his wife from touching them. He once proposed to me, holding the deeds to those houses, and I still turned him down. You know, I don't like kids. Ethan said once they get rid of his paralyzed grandmother and force that unlucky nurse to complete the Zhao family's reproductive duties, kicking her out would just take one word from me. In the end, I'll be the one laughing." I was seething with rage, my chest tight with emotion. So even my marriage had been part of their meticulously crafted scheme. The Zhao family had always been wealthy, they were just stingy and manipulative when it came to me. I held back my anger, careful not to tip them off, but the entire conversation had already been recorded on video. Still, this evidence alone wasn't enough to overturn the situation and clear my name. The Ethan family could have completely denied everything. Solid evidence was necessary. Just as I was preparing to continue lying low and gather more proof, something happened with my family. My brother called urgently, "Olivia, come back now." Mom and Dad suddenly returned home, and Mom fainted from anger after dealing with your in-laws. Dad says you have 10 minutes to explain, or he'll break your legs. While I was on my way back home in a cab, my sister-in-law sent me a video. In the footage, Ethan's family acted as if they were victims seeking justice. Especially Leo, my father-in-law, whose mouth was like a loaded machine gun firing away, spewing insults at my parents. "You still have the nerve to ask why we're here. Of course, it's to see how shameless the Morgan family can be. How dare you, as educators, raise a daughter with no manners? When her in-laws say one thing, she counters with 10. Petty and overly calculative, fine, but running away just because she's asked to do some chores. What? Is her dad the president, or her mom the queen? She can't be spoken to or asked to do anything. A married woman can't even handle her responsibilities. What's the point of getting married? Isn't that just ruining families? Our Ethan family gave $28,000 for the dowry. We're not here to support freeloaders. If she can't do her share, there's no way out. Today, if she doesn't kneel and apologize to us, this won't end. If Olivia isn't home, then she's run away, and your Morgan family is guilty of fraud. I'll take a megaphone to your neighborhood and let everyone see your family's shamelessness. My mom tried her best to calm them down. Dear in-laws, let's not get too worked up. My son has already asked Olivia to come back. Once she's here, I'll get to the bottom of this. If it's truly her fault, I'll make sure she apologizes to you. But Leo sneered dismissively. Oh, are you implying I'm falsely accusing your daughter? No wonder Olivia has no manners. It's like they say, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. It was like trying to reason with a brick wall. My parents, who had lived their entire lives without ever being insulted like this, were red-faced with humiliation and fury. My brother, raised by our grandparents in the countryside and hot-tempered by nature, couldn't hold back any longer. Grabbing Ethan by the collar, he threatened, "Listen, Ethan, tell your parents to shut up, or I'll beat the crap out of you." "You dare?" Leo roared, before giving my mother-in-law a covert signal. Vivian instantly threw herself at my brother, wailing and screaming, "Go ahead, hit me, kill this old woman while you're at it." During the shoving match between the two families, my mom fainted. My sister-in-law sent me a voice message, telling me not to worry. My mom had already taken her emergency heart medicine and was fine now. She was hiding out with my sister-in-law in the bedroom to avoid the plague, while Ethan's family and my dad waited for me in the living room. She warned me to be careful around my dad. An hour later, I finally understood the meaning behind her words. The moment I stepped through the door, my dad slapped me across the face. "Just 1 month into marriage, and you run away from home because you don't want to do chores. Is this how your mom and I raised you? Look at what you've done to your mother. If anything happens to her, I won't forgive you." It was the first time my dad had ever hit me, and I was stunned. "Dad, you don't know anything, and you hit me." Leo seized the opportunity to add fuel to the fire. "HMPH, didn't you say you'd break her legs? All talk, no action. Don't think slapping her once will get us to drop the matter." My dad froze, his face reddening with embarrassment. Vivian chimed in with her faux concerned tone. "Oh dear, Olivia, you're being so unreasonable. We've treated you like our own daughter, and yet you just up and leave, even staying out overnight. We wouldn't dare let this get out, or your reputation would be ruined." Vivian's comment reminded Leo of something, and he quickly exploded again. "What kind of respectable wife stays out overnight? It's disgraceful, completely lacking decency and upbringing." Ethan looked heartbroken as he accused me. "Olivia, I've been nothing but devoted to you. Whatever you wanted, I gave. Even that 2000 honeymoon trip, I covered. And how do you repay me? You've let me down so much." I had truly underestimated the shamelessness of this family. My parents had taught me from a young age never to argue with small-minded people. But today, I wasn't just going to argue, I was going to win. I sent my dad the image of the Ethan family daughter-in-law rules and the secretly recorded video of Vivian from the steakhouse. Then, I began my battle. What kind of in-laws treat their daughter-in-law like she's less than human? What kind of in-laws spread indecent rumors about their daughter-in-law? What kind of husband insists on splitting honeymoon costs 50-50? What kind of husband secretly schemes against his wife and then blames her? Who's disgraceful? Who's ill-mannered? If anyone should be disappointed, it's me. I'm not asking for you to treat me like a daughter. I'd be grateful if you could show me the bare minimum of respect. My voice was strong and commanding, filled with hate that burned in my reddened eyes like a wounded warrior picking up sharp thorns, ready for battle. Even my dad, who had just slapped me, was taken aback. The gentle, sweet, and fragile daughter he hadn't seen in a month seemed to have transformed into someone entirely different. After reading the rules and watching the video, his expression shifted to one of realization and heartbreak. Hurriedly, he grabbed a cold towel and pressed it gently against my cheek. This is the man I call my father, someone who only expresses apologies through actions. Ethan's brother, Leo, was furious. He snatched the paper, crumpled it into a ball, and hurled it at Ethan's face without saying a word. Immediately, he followed up with a punch. "You bullied my sister, and you wonder why she ran away? And then you have the audacity to throw insults like it's nothing. Do you think her family's just going to sit back and take it?" Leo was taller and stronger than Ethan, who had always been suppressed by his parents growing up. There was no comparison between them. In the end, Ethan's mother resorted to theatrics, collapsing to the ground in a pretense of injury. It wasn't until Ethan's father commanded, "Stop it," that the situation finally came to a halt. Both sides reluctantly agreed to resolve the issue peacefully. Just as I had expected, Ethan and his father adamantly denied everything Vivian had mentioned in the video. Ethan's father claimed it was all Vivian's exaggeration, insisting I shouldn't take it seriously. Ethan, with a pitiful expression, protested, "If you're upset, take it out on me. Don't drag Vivian into this. She and I are as innocent as can be. I have a clear conscience." Ethan's mother, on the other hand, was filled with venomous stupidity. "Dear, your daughter is our family's daughter-in-law. She's lost her job due to her behavior and has brought shame to the family. Isn't it time she stays home to raise children and take care of household chores? That's how I've lived my life. What's wrong with these 5 family rules?" I looked at Autumn sympathetically and sighed. "Mother-in-law, you've worked tirelessly for the Ethan family for 30 years, sacrificing your youth and beauty, gaining only wrinkles and calluses. Forget about a 10,000 diamond ring. Has Ethan's father ever gifted you anything worth over 100, like jewelry, clothes, or other presents?" She froze. Of course not. Autumn's clothes and belongings were all cheap, bargain bin items. Frugality seemed etched into her very DNA. Ethan's father angrily accused me of sowing discord and making baseless claims, asserting he'd never give such an expensive gift. He declared that Vivian was the daughter of his late best friend, who had entrusted her and her mother to his care before passing. Naturally, he'd pay them some attention by occasionally gifting fruit or small presents, or helping with tasks only a man could handle, but a diamond ring? Absolutely not. He admitted he had once considered Vivian as a potential match for Ethan, but dropped the idea when she showed no interest. If I'm lying, may I be struck by a car the moment I step outside. I rolled my eyes. Why do men who love to lie also love making these dramatic oaths? I advised Ethan's father not to make sweeping statements. Then, I handed a receipt for the diamond ring purchased to his wife and sent her a video of Ethan's father and Vivian at the Carlier flagship store buying the ring. That was the reason I had spent an hour out earlier. I had taken screenshots of Vivian flaunting the diamond ring and visited the Carlier flagship store under the pretense of recovering a lost receipt for my sister. Not only did they provide a new receipt, but the store also reviewed surveillance footage for verification. I recorded the footage while they checked. Vivian herself had previously boasted that the ring was gifted to her by Leo on the day Ethan and I got married. With the ring's design, buyer information, and purchase date in hand, it was easy to uncover the truth. I didn't need to say a word. Ethan's mother pieced everything together herself and snapped. She went berserk, scratching Ethan's father's face relentlessly. "Leo, you shameless old man at your age, you're having an affair? And not just any affair, but with your best friend's daughter. Don't you have any shame?" Seeing his father being attacked by his mother, Ethan actually seemed relieved. He pretended to try calming her down. Ethan's father adamantly protested. "You crazy old bat, stop spouting nonsense. Vivian is our goddaughter and has always been my ideal choice for a daughter-in-law. I've been trying to match her with Ethan for ages. Buying her a diamond ring was just a gesture to compensate her. It's nothing like what you're imagining." Ethan then turned his anger toward me, accusing me of meddling and deliberately stirring up trouble in the family. He even had the audacity to suggest I might be cheating on him and planning to leave. This guy was trying to turn the tables even if he hadn't crossed any major lines with Vivian yet. He clearly had the intention. Feigning urgency, I explained, "Honey, you've misunderstood. I wasn't trying to dig up dirt on you, I was just trying to clear my name regarding the red envelope incident. Who would have thought your god-sister Vivian turned out to be connected to the person in hospital bed 53. By the way, I've found evidence proving someone framed me and our hospital. The person who leaked the red envelope scandal online is deliberately trying to ruin my reputation and our hospital's name. This has caused significant damage to both me and the institution, so the hospital and I have reported it to the police." Leo praised me for handling the situation well. Ethan's family, however, was stunned and demanded to know what evidence I had. I refused to answer, citing the need for confidentiality during the ongoing police investigation. Ethan's father, his face bloodied from the scratches, was too enraged to care about the pain. He furiously questioned why I had involved the police. My father, with a face as dark as thunderclouds, retorted, "What kind of logic is that? My daughter was framed, why shouldn't she report it to the authorities?" Ethan tried to explain, such a serious matter should at least have been discussed with us first, we're family, after all. I was baffled. What was there to discuss? Ethan's father suddenly softened his tone. "Dear, after careful thought, we realize that the events of the past couple of days have been a result of our lack of foresight." Olivia was still young, and it was understandable that she didn't want to take care of elderly family members or do house chores. It wasn't right for us to decide her future without consulting her first. They've only been married a month, and things have already gone south. This is largely our fault. Ethan always speaks up for Olivia. She's the only one in his heart. For the sake of the kids' happiness, let's put our differences aside. That's right, Olivia. I genuinely like you and treat you like my own daughter, Ethan's mother said, clutching my hand tightly with a forced smile, as though terrified I might actually leave. It's always like this in the beginning of a marriage. You don't need to feel anxious. You'll get used to it over time. I'll help out with the chores, and when you have kids, I can even help babysit occasionally. The old woman was so hypocritical. She didn't truly care about me, she was just afraid of losing the scapegoat they'd roped in. She was willing to sacrifice herself for her family's happiness, constantly moved by her own so-called selflessness. But deep down, she longed to escape and simply lacked the courage. And so, she transformed from victim to perpetrator. Ethan's attitude had changed as well. He took my hand, his eyes brimming with an exaggerated tenderness that could have made even a dog cringe. "Olivia, I was wrong. I shouldn't have made you do all the shopping and cooking by yourself, and I definitely shouldn't have only given you $500 for living expenses. Please forgive me and come back home." The situation had completely flipped, leaving my brother dumbfounded. How does this family change their stance as quickly as flipping a page in a book? My old-fashioned and face-saving father, on the other hand, seemed relieved. "What do you know? Couples fight at the head of the bed and make up at the foot of it. There's no hurdle a family can't overcome." He then turned to lecture Ethan. "Ethan, since you've shown sincere regret, I'll forgive you on Olivia's behalf this time. But you are never to mistreat her again." Ethan nodded and bowed repeatedly, tears streaming down his face as he promised to change his ways and take good care of me, reassuring my parents that they could rest easy. My dad seemed quite pleased. "Don't blame yourself too much. In conflicts between in-laws, a man's role should be to mediate, not to add fuel to the fire. You're still young, you'll learn." Ethan quickly wiped his tears and smiled. "You're absolutely right, sir. I've learned my lesson." My dad, in his seasoned and authoritative tone, added, "Go buy a bouquet of flowers and a couple of movie tickets. Take Olivia out for a candlelit dinner or something. Women just need a little coaxing." I was exasperated. Just like that, the two of them decided we were reconciled. The three members of the Morgan household let out a collective sigh of relief, exchanging knowing glances. Their smug expressions, as if they thought I was easy to manipulate, didn't escape my notice. Outwardly, I reluctantly agreed to return to their home, but inwardly I was calculating my next move. On the way back, everything seemed calm. But as soon as we stepped into their house, the atmosphere shifted. Ethan and his father exchanged a look, and I was quickly ushered into the bedroom. Ethan followed close behind, looking like he had something important to discuss. "Olivia, you should drop the charges. Let's not blow things out of proportion," Ethan said, his shameless suggestion leaving me speechless. I was seeking the truth and justice. How could he see this as blowing things out of proportion? Ethan explained further, saying that the patient who had leaked the screenshots of me allegedly soliciting bribes was, unfortunately, Vivian's aunt. She had claimed that it was a voluntary gift and had even tried to testify on my behalf. However, the screenshots were maliciously used by others, spreading online before the hospital could clear my name, leading to my suspension. It was a case of good intentions gone wrong, he said, and she had no ill intent. "And what do you think?" I asked coldly. "Should I just accept being falsely accused and lose my job, or do you actually believe the screenshots circulating online are real?" Ethan chuckled awkwardly. "Look, it's just us here, so what if you took the money? It's not a big deal. Worst case, you quit your job, I'll take care of you. With what? That measly paycheck of yours, his father chimed in sarcastically. You're serving people either way. Might as well stay home and serve us instead. I was incredulous. Didn't you just say the exact opposite at my parents' house? His father hesitated for a moment, then retorted, unwilling to back down, Fine, I'll stay out of the housework, okay. But you should still have some compassion. Vivian and her mom are struggling. Her aunt is the only person who truly cares about them. You really want to see them ostracized by the rest of their family? If you have a shred of decency, you'll delete that video you recorded at the restaurant today. So, I was supposed to be the sacrificial lamb. I let out a cold laugh and flatly refused. How is that my problem? I even suspect that Vivian's aunt was colluding with the person who framed me. When the defamation case goes to court, that video and the other evidence on my phone will be presented in full. Now, if you'll excuse me, I said, cutting off the conversation. I need to take a shower. I placed my phone on the bedside table to charge and grabbed a change of clothes. Ethan knew I didn't wear a bra after showering, so he played along, helping his father out of the room. The old man stormed out, red-faced and fuming. Ethan, however, seemed pleased with himself and even told me to take my time in the shower. While I was in the bathroom, he busied himself outside, trying to delete the video from my phone. Standing in the bathroom, I unlocked Ethan's phone, which I had managed to grab earlier. This is what they call no pain, no gain. Ethan couldn't remember passwords, so he used a simple pattern lock, which I had quickly memorized. Soon, I was scrolling through all the chats between Ethan, Vivian, and her aunt. Vivian, congratulations on your wedding, my dear Ethan, you won't ignore me now, will you? Sad emoji. Ethan, relax, Olivia was just chosen by my family to bear children and serve as a free nanny for us. Though she's technically my wife now, the spot in my heart will always belong to you. Heart emoji. Vivian, men's words are nothing but lies. Ethan, I proposed to you with my 2 properties back then, but you didn't accept. Before Olivia and I got married, I transferred those properties to my dad. She doesn't even know I invested in your training institute. She still thinks I'm broke. In fact, she even contributed her own house to our family. Believe me now? Vivian, here's the next line, being fooled by someone as wonderful as you would be pure happiness. It's just fate playing tricks on us. Let's delete each other. I can't take this anymore. Ethan, I'm coming to see you right away. Vivian, Ethan, I think I might be pregnant. Ethan, I'll divorce her immediately and marry you. Vivian, haha, just kidding, one time isn't enough to get pregnant. Do you really think you're that good? Ethan, oh, you know how good I am. Winking emoji. The sheer amount of flirtatious messages made me nauseous as I skimmed through their recent exchanges. Vivian, did you remind your wife to take care of my aunt? Ethan, it wasn't a reminder, it was an order. She wouldn't dare disobey or I'd deal with her. Vivian, why don't you recommend my aunt's account to her? My aunt said she wants to send a gift. Ethan, she's too stubborn to accept it. Besides, this could backfire and cost her her job. Better not risk it. Vivian, are you stupid? You and your dad have always wanted her to quit her job and stay home to take care of your grandmother. This is the perfect opportunity. Ethan, Vivian, you're so smart. She never takes her phone into the bathroom, so it's right here in front of me. I'll add your aunt, impersonate her, and delete the contact afterward completely undetectable. Sure enough, Ethan had stolen my phone and impersonated me to ask for a gift from the patient in room 53. I then found Ethan's conversation with Vivian's aunt. Vivian's aunt. Ethan, your wife added me as a friend, but deleted me within half an hour. I can't reach her now, and the hospital is asking me about the gift. Should I deny it? Ethan, no, just be truthful. Who cares about her lousy job? She belongs at home. My grandmother needs her. Her responsibility is to give birth and care for my family. Otherwise, my $28,000 dowry would have been wasted. By the way, send me a copy of your chats with her. I immediately took screenshots of everything and sent them to my brother, asking him to save them for me. After that, I exited the bathroom and placed Ethan's phone back on his nightstand before packing all my personal belongings into a suitcase. Meanwhile, Ethan and his father were drinking and celebrating at the dinner table. My phone was lying on the table, and Ethan didn't even bother to hide the fact that he had tampered with it. When I confronted him, he brazenly admitted it without a hint of shame. He even confessed to deleting the video evidence of his conversations with Vivian and her aunt, as well as surveillance footage of his father buying Vivian a diamond ring. "Drop the case," Ethan said with a smirk. "The evidence is gone now. As for that lousy job, who cares? Worst case scenario." "Worst case scenario, we get divorced," I interrupted, voicing the thought that had been haunting me. The father and son froze, their eyes fixed on my suitcase. Ethan's mother, Autumn, rushed out of the kitchen with a spatula in hand and started yelling, "Olivia, are you done causing trouble yet? Ever since you entered this family, we haven't had a single peaceful day. You're useless, no job, can't cook. No one would want you, even if we paid them, let alone the $28,000 dowry we gave. Ethan doesn't mind spending $5,000 a month to support you. You should be grateful." I looked at Autumn sympathetically and said, "Your husband, who spends $10,000 on diamond rings for his goddaughter, invests $50,000 in her training institute, and pays her a $2,000 monthly salary. How much does he spend to support you?" Autumn's face was a picture of shock as she turned to stare at Ethan's father. As I reached the door and opened it, Ethan smashed his glass on the floor with a loud crash. For the first time, this weak man showed a spine, but only to hurt the wife who had once loved him unconditionally and sacrificed everything, only to be betrayed. "Olivia, you've really made me angry now," Ethan roared furiously. "If you step out of this house today, don't ever come back. Don't think I'll come begging for you to return." Seeing me pause at the doorway, a malicious glee flickered in Ethan's eyes, as if he was waiting for me to panic and plead for forgiveness. He had no idea that the gentle and naive woman who once loved him wholeheartedly, without expecting anything in return, had long been killed by him. I turned my head and gave him a smile that seemed like someone pardoned from a death sentence, reborn into a new life. "That's great. Thank you so much," I said, already slipping my shoes on. "Get out, just get out. I hope you die out there," Ethan snarled, taking 2 steps toward me in anger. But his father shot him a glare and barked. "Let her go." Ethan's dad looked at me with contempt and disdain in his eyes. "A woman who disrespects her in-laws and storms out of the house at every little disagreement deserves a lesson," he said coldly. "Her father, Morgan, is infamous for being prideful. I don't believe for a second that he would let his daughter embarrass him by filing for divorce just a month after getting married. Mark my words, one phone call from me and he'll bring her back crawling," he sneered, as their entire family laughed mockingly behind me. I sighed with amusement and said, "Your family is finished, Ethan, and you still have the audacity to laugh." Without hesitation, I flung open the door to their house. Outside, my parents, my brother, and his wife stood waiting for me, their smiles bright and reassuring. Earlier, I had sent my brother a screenshot and asked him to save it. He told me he'd come over with the whole family to take me home. My sister-in-law was the first to step forward and link arms with me. "Let's go home," she said warmly. My dad took my suitcase from me and handed it to my brother. My mom pressed a warm meat bun into my hands. "You must be starving. I just made these. There's more at home," she said. My dad turned to the people inside the house, his eyes blazing with fury. "I may be a man who cares about pride, but when it comes to my daughter, I know where my priorities lie," he declared. "You didn't marry a wife, you brought home a free maid and breeding machine, treating my daughter like this. I, Morgan, won't let it slide. You can expect a court summons soon." With that, my dad wrapped his arm around me and we walked away. Ethan and his father rushed outside in panic. My brother flexed his muscular arm and waved his fist, sending them stumbling backward in fear before retreating into the house. As we left, anger twisted their faces into grotesque expressions. 11. Upon investigation, the person who first reported me for taking bribes and leaked the initial online accusations turned out to be none other than Ethan, my legal husband. The evidence I provided was authenticated through technical analysis and data from the messaging platform. All the screenshots of our chat history were verified as genuine without any edits or tampering. The hospital and I filed as plaintiffs, while Ethan, Vivian, and her aunt were defendants. They all lost the case. They were ordered to pay $1,000 to me and $5,000 to the hospital as compensation. Finally, my name was cleared, and I was able to return to work. Next came my divorce lawsuit against Ethan. Ethan's family insisted that I return the $28,000 bridal dowry and compensate them for the wedding expenses. Otherwise, they refused to agree to the divorce. I had no choice but to sue them for their shameless demands. Ethan had deliberately concealed the truth about his family's situation, framed me, and cheated on me, all with undeniable evidence. Victory was guaranteed on my side. However, divorce proceedings are tedious and take time, so we weren't able to finalize the separation immediately. During the lawsuit, I heard plenty of amusing stories about his family. Once suspicion takes root, it grows and flourishes, and guilt becomes inevitable. Ethan's mother, Autumn, brought her group of elderly girlfriends to Vivian's training center, holding a banner that read, "Seeking a second wife," to propose marriage for Ethan. Autumn claimed that since Vivian had accepted a 10,000 diamond ring and was managing their family business, Vivian's training center, she deserved to be officially recognized for her efforts. Vivian, furious, called her own group of girlfriends to retaliate, leading to a full-on brawl. All of them ended up in jail, receiving detention for their actions. What's even more shocking is that Autumn passed away from a heart attack the very night she returned home. Before her death, she strangled the elderly grandmother who had been paralyzed for years. Neighbors reported hearing the old couple arguing and even fighting that evening. Was it an accidental death or murder? The incident went viral online, drawing widespread attention and heated discussions. Later, someone discovered that employees at Vivian's training center referred to Vivian as the boss lady. Speculations about who the actual boss was became a hot topic among netizens. Unexpectedly, Autumn's sudden death and the way Ethan's family calmly handled the funeral became the catalyst for their ultimate fallout. Ethan showed rare courage twice in his life, both times over jealousy. Father and son fought viciously over who the real owner of Vivian's training center was, leaving both of them severely injured and hospitalized. The next day, Vivian audaciously added fuel to the fire by visiting them in the hospital. Ethan was ecstatic, declaring he'd sever ties with his father, Leo, and demanding Leo return the two houses to him. Ethan planned to use the houses to propose to Vivian once again, but Leo feigned ignorance, claiming the houses had always been his, clearly intending to keep them for himself. Vivian had once joked that both men were merely her backup options. Now, the one with two houses obviously had the upper hand in becoming her next official partner. Vivian then affectionately linked arms with her godfather as she escorted him out of the hospital. Ethan, having lost both his lover and his assets, completely lost his mind. That same day, he drove his car straight into Vivian and her godfather, killing them both. Ethan's fate was predictable: 2 lives lost, paid for with his own. Well, I won't need a divorce now, since I'm about to become a widow. I've become the only surviving member of the Taylor family. 2 downtown apartments, a suburban house, and the education center are all mine. Truly unexpected, yet perfectly logical. The end. End of the first story. Subscribe to my channel if you like my stories. Don't miss the second exciting story. Story 2. My husband's wedding rehearsal partner wasn't me. On the day of the wedding rehearsal, Fiona's adopted sister confessed her lifelong dream to have a wedding with him. To fulfill her wish, Fiona kissed her passionately on stage in front of all the guests. As I stood there, shocked and bewildered, he turned to me impatiently and said, "Can you stop being so petty? Sky is just my sister." Later, my childhood friend made a wish of his own, that I would marry him. Red-eyed and vulnerable, he pleaded, "Liv, we've been together for 8 years." But I wrapped my arm around my childhood friend and walked past him. "It's just a marriage license. Why are you making such a fuss?" Amid the chatter of the crowd, I stood on stage, clenching my fists so tightly that the fresh manicure on my nails broke the skin, leaving faint spots of blood on my wedding dress. In front of me, the 2 people kissing were my fiancé, Fiona, and his precious adopted sister, Sky. The staff witnessing this awkward scene looked down in embarrassment while the MC froze in place, unsure of what to do. He gestured to the lighting crew to focus the spotlight on me and cautiously whispered to Fiona, "Mr. Mason, the bride is here." But Fiona showed no restraint. Instead, he had the wedding ring we had prepared in advance placed on Sky's finger, making a solemn promise in front of everyone. "Sky, you can rest assured that no matter what happens, you will always be the most important person in my heart." "Thank you, Ethan. You're so good to me." Their heartfelt vows echoed around the room. As the bride-to-be, I stood there helpless, enduring the bewildered looks from the crowd below. See, I told you there was something off about them. What a shame for such a beautiful bride. Exactly. If it were me, I'd have already thrown the bouquet in his face. She's really a saint for putting up with this. Listening to the murmurs below, my face turned pale, and the flowers in my bouquet were nearly ripped apart in my grip. Fiona, however, showed no signs of stopping. Not only did he hold Sky in his arms, but he also toyed with her hand in his palm. I glanced at Sky's designer wedding dress, the one I had ordered 6 months in advance from a renowned designer. Fiona had claimed it didn't fit when the wedding date approached, saying we wouldn't use it. Now it was clear the issue wasn't the size, he had given it to his adopted sister. Seeing me frozen in place, Fiona's patience visibly waned. He grabbed the microphone from the MC and barked at me, "Liv, hurry up. The ceremony is about to start." In his arms, Sky looked at me smugly, her expression full of provocation. Clutching Fiona's hand, she feigned innocence as she said, "Sis, don't be upset. It's just that having a wedding with Ethan has always been my biggest dream, so he fulfilled it for me today during the rehearsal. Please don't be mad at me because of this." Fiona pulled Sky closer, shielding her from my gaze, and sneered, "Olivia, can you stop being so petty? Sky is just my sister. If you keep making a fuss, tomorrow's wedding won't happen." I let out a bitter laugh. Fiona always assumed I would forgive everything, but looking at the intimacy between them, I suddenly found it all meaningless. I grabbed my wedding dress and, under Sky's mocking gaze, walked toward Fiona. As I approached him, I refused the hand he extended to me, yanked off my gloves, and hurled the bouquet at him. The bouquet hit him hard, scattering petals across the floor like the fragments of our once perfect love, completely shattered. In his stunned gaze, I grabbed the microphone from his hand, my eyes now devoid of the love they once held, and declared firmly, "There's no need for the wedding. It's canceled. Ethan, I don't want to marry you anymore." Fiona's eyes flashed with shock, while the murmuring crowd below fell into dead silence. I tossed the microphone aside and turned to leave. In the dressing room, I sat in front of the vanity, removing my makeup, feeling utterly drained. Fiona followed me inside, reaching out to take my hand, but I dodged him. His face showed a flash of irritation as he coldly snapped, "Stop being dramatic. It was just a rehearsal, not the actual wedding day. Why are you making such a big deal out of it?" The annoyance in his eyes and the disdainful curve of his lips stung me once again. I let out a bitter laugh and retorted sarcastically, "She wanted a wedding with you, so you agreed. If she wanted to be a mother, would you rush to be her husband? Is it her ignorance in crossing boundaries, or do you enjoy the thrill of juggling 2 women's affections more?" Perhaps I had hit a nerve. Fiona's face darkened, and with a burst of anger, he kicked the vanity table, cursing loudly. "What a joyous day, and you just have to make a scene, don't you? Am I the one making a scene? Clearly, it's you." Before I could finish, Ethan shoved me aside, stormed out of the room, and locked the door to the dressing room behind him. "If you don't want to rehearse, then stay in here and calm yourself down," he shouted through the door. The hotel's dressing room was small, windowless, and suffocating. The moment the door slammed shut, I rushed to it, frantically turning the handle. When it was clear I couldn't get out, I began pounding on the door with all my might. "Fiona, what are you doing? You know I'm claustrophobic. Open the door, let me out." But the sound of footsteps outside only grew fainter. Moments later, I heard the commotion in the hall. Apparently, the rehearsal had resumed without me. Alone in the cramped space, I sank to the floor, trembling with fear. My breathing grew shallow, my vision blurred. Just as the terror threatened to overtake me, my phone rang. It was my parents calling. They'd come to the rehearsal, but were shocked to find Fiona arm in arm with Sky. Alarmed, they immediately called me. Choking back sobs, I told them I was locked in the dressing room. After hanging up, I distracted myself by scrolling through my phone, hoping to stave off the panic. That's when I saw the video Sky had just posted. In it, the large screen in the hall displayed a slideshow of her and Ethan's wedding photos holding hands, kissing, wrapped in intimate embraces. Beneath the screen, Ethan stood professing his undying love and loyalty, making vows he'd clearly already broken. My fingers trembled as I saved the video. Just then, fireworks exploded outside, the deafening noise shattering what little composure I had left. My body shook uncontrollably. At the peak of my panic, the door suddenly burst open. My mom rushed in and wrapped me in a tight embrace, pulling me out of the room. My dad, seething with anger, glared at the couple still rehearsing in the hall and was ready to confront them. But I stopped him. "Dad, it's not worth it," I said firmly. In that moment, I felt nothing but relief that we hadn't registered the marriage yet. The fear that had gripped me evaporated. With my mom's support, I stripped off the wedding gown and walked away from the scene. Just as we reached the front doors, Ethan rushed out to block my path. My parents frowned, ready to give him a piece of their mind. I patted their arms, signaling for them to head to the car. I wanted to handle this alone. Ethan rubbed his temples, fatigue evident in his eyes, but not a trace of guilt. "There's a reason for all of this," he began. "After the wedding tomorrow, I'll personally explain everything to your parents." I cut him off. "That won't be necessary. They're my parents, not yours. As for the wedding, well, you can have Sky take my place. She's already gone from foster daughter to fiancé, might as well make it official." He froze, clearly not expecting that response. With a resigned sigh, he tried again. "Liv, don't say things you don't mean. You know I've always treated Sky like my own sister. This was just a rehearsal, not the actual wedding." I couldn't help but laugh. Even now, he thought he'd done nothing wrong. To him, his relationship with Sky was innocent, just the affection of a brother for his sister. A sister. I scoffed. What kind of brother kisses his sister? What kind of brother abandons his fiancée to rehearse a wedding with his sister? He opened his mouth to respond, but I didn't give him the chance. I walked past him, heading straight to my parents. I didn't spare him another glance. Once in the car, I sent him a text. "The apartment was bought by my family. You've got 10 days to move out." He didn't reply, probably assuming I was just throwing a tantrum. My parents' faces were dark with fury, but they busied themselves calling relatives to explain why the wedding was off. Most were understanding, but a few couldn't resist making snide comments. "What happened? Why cancel so suddenly? I've always said Olivia's too headstrong, not ladylike at all. No wonder the groom dumped her right before the wedding." Hearing this, I grabbed the phone from my dad and lit into my aunt. "Are you family, or are you on the groom's side? If he cheated the day before the wedding, he's trash. And if you're defending him, that makes you trash too. Two pieces of garbage, keep each other company." With that, I hung up. My mom looked at me worriedly, but I squeezed her hand and reassured her. "It's fine, Mom. Better no wedding than marrying the wrong person. There's no shortage of good men out there." We went home together, and once they'd calmed down, I contacted a realtor to list the apartment my parents had bought me as a wedding gift. Though it wasn't very big, its downtown location made it quite valuable. But when I unlocked the door, I was greeted by the sight of two people embracing. Ethan's face betrayed a flicker of panic before he quickly released Sky from his arms. Awkwardly, he turned to me. "Liv, tomorrow's the wedding. Why are you here all of a sudden?" Ignoring him, I led the realtor inside and began showing them around. Ethan frowned and confronted me. "Liv, what's the meaning of this?" I glanced at the red marks on his collar and spoke calmly. "Can't you tell? I'm selling the house." No sooner had the words left my mouth than Ethan's awkward expression shifted into anger. He shot me an annoyed look and said, "If you sell the house, where will we live after we get married?" I let out a laugh, but before I could respond, Sky suddenly hooked her arm around Fiona's and spoke smugly. "Exactly, sis. You're not still upset about what happened at the rehearsal, are you? Even if you are, you can't just sell Ethan's house because of it." Ignoring their smug expressions, I pulled out the deed to the house and handed it to the agent, signaling for him to handle everything. Before the agent could even put it away, Fiona shoved him aside and snatched the deed from his hands. She glared at me and said angrily, "Liv, tomorrow is our wedding. Do you really have to go this far?" From beside her, Sky clung to Fiona's arm and put on a pitiful look. "Come on, sis. Ethan and I are completely innocent. That was just a childhood dream. If you're mad, just take it out on me." I had no interest in arguing with them. "This is my house. I can sell it if I want to. It has nothing to do with you. I suggest you pack up and leave before I call the police to have you thrown out." Ethan's anger flared instantly, and he raised his hand as if he was about to hit me. Sensing trouble, the agent stepped in front of me without hesitation and shouted at Ethan, "What do you think you're doing? You can't just hit someone." Ethan ignored him, but at that moment, All three of our phones buzzed simultaneously. When I opened mine, I saw a video of Ethan and Sky at the wedding rehearsal had shot to the top of the trending list. Beneath the video, a helpful viewer had detailed their relationship. Foster siblings holding hands and kissing at the Foster brothers' wedding rehearsal, while the bride was present no less. As I read through the flood of comments condemning Ethan for cheating, I couldn't help but laugh. Turns out my money was well spent. Clearly, the other two weren't enjoying it as much. Sky started crying in fear while Ethan's face turned ashen as he tried to comfort her. But honestly, none of that mattered to me. I snatched the deed back from Fiona and handed it to the agent before walking away with him. What I didn't expect was that, as the online backlash spiraled out of control, Ethan actually had the audacity to show up at my house. Or maybe he thought this was his last chance. Before I opened the door, my mom shot me a worried look and said sternly, "Olivia, if you dare take him back, I'll pretend I don't have a daughter." Her words had barely left her mouth before I quickly reassured her, "Mom, don't worry. I definitely won't forgive him." Only then did my mom open the door. Given everything that had happened, she didn't bother hiding her disdain. She blocked Ethan, who was laden with bags, at the entrance and snapped, "What are you doing here? Our home isn't big enough for someone like you." Ethan didn't get angry. He seemed determined to win my forgiveness, smiling and apologizing no matter what my mom said. After a while, the neighbors started gathering to watch the commotion. Seeing the growing crowd, my mom reluctantly let him in. Once inside, Ethan quickly placed the gifts aside and walked straight to me. Without hesitation, he knelt down and said, "Liv, I know I was wrong. You can hit me or yell at me, whatever you need to do. But this trending story is bad for both of us. Could you post something to clear things up? If you do, I promise to give you the most extravagant wedding." I remained expressionless, but my mom burst out angrily before I could speak. "You marry my daughter? Keep dreaming." Ethan ignored her and pulled a box from his pocket. He opened it to reveal a ring and looked at me earnestly. "Liv, I know I messed up, but I swear I'll make it up to you. Please forgive me." My mom was so infuriated by Ethan's shamelessness that she stormed off to sit in the corner. Meanwhile, I found myself staring at the ring in his hand. As I took in Ethan's figure, memories of our time together, both sweet and bitter, flooded back. For the first time, I realized how much he had changed compared to the man he used to be. I still remember the first time he came to my house. Back then, he was shy and bashful. When my mom asked him a casual question, his ears turned red with embarrassment, and he couldn't even look her in the eye. Yet he followed her around the kitchen, helping out wherever he could. Even when he sat on the couch, he wouldn't lean back, afraid of doing something that might upset her. Only when he received the red envelope from my family did he finally relax. He hugged me excitedly, saying we had finally made it to that point. But now, just as I was about to refuse, there was a sudden knock at the door. My mom went to answer it, and standing there was a tall and slim figure. It was Ethan, my childhood friend. Without hesitation, he greeted everyone present and then sat down directly beside me, casually separating me from Fiona, who had been sitting next to me. Fiona, clearly annoyed, tried to speak, but Ethan picked up an orange from the table, peeled it, popped a segment into his mouth, and then placed the remaining orange in my palm with a warm smile. "It's sweet. Try it." Fiona's face turned red with anger at the scene, and just as he was about to say something, his phone rang. He answered, and immediately Sky's tearful voice came through on the other end. "Brother, isn't Olivia willing to clear things up? Everyone online is attacking me, and I'm so scared." I couldn't help but laugh as I glanced at Fiona. Did he honestly think I'd step in to defend her? Seeing the frustration in my gaze, Fiona seemed to understand. He hesitated before responding. "Sky?" Before he could finish, Sky turned on her camera and spoke with desperation. "Brother, I know everything is my fault. I'm willing to die to make up for it. Just please, you and Olivia, don't be angry anymore." With those words, she turned the camera to her wrist, and in her other hand, she held a knife, ready to slash her wrist. Witnessing this, Fiona panicked and urgently begged her not to do anything foolish. Then he looked up at me with a hopeful expression. "Liv, Sky, she..." His plea was obvious without finishing the sentence. I met his gaze calmly and spoke. "If you don't go now, her wound might stop bleeding soon." Fiona froze momentarily, then stood up abruptly to head toward me, seemingly intending to hug me, but Ethan intercepted him. Fiona turned back, still pleading. "Liv, I promise, once I get back, I'll give you a grand wedding." I had been planning to break things off with him right then and there, but since he insisted on bringing up marriage, I decided to stand up and confront him. "If there's nothing else, I'll go with you. I'd like to see how serious her injuries are." Fiona didn't hesitate and immediately nodded in agreement. "All right." Sky clearly didn't expect me to come along, but the moment she saw Fiona, her tears welled up. Fiona rushed to embrace her, soothing her gently. Once her emotions settled, he finally noticed me standing nearby, a flicker of panic crossing his face. I wasn't fazed. Sky feigned surprise upon seeing me and spoke with a pitiful tone. "Olivia, did you come to see me too?" I shot her a cold glance, deliberately ignoring the hostility in her eyes, and placed a camellia bouquet I'd brought on the nearby table. "Yes, I came to see you." Sky seemed ready to say more, but I stepped past Fiona and leaned close to her, whispering in her ear. "This trending topic is my gift to you. I hope you like it. And this bouquet, it suits you perfectly." Without waiting for her reaction, I strode out of the room, ignoring the murderous glare she sent my way. Just as I reached the door, I heard the crash of a vase breaking behind me. I didn't bother turning back and walked out decisively. What I didn't expect was Fiona chasing after me, his expression irritated as he confronted me. "You know Sky can't handle stress, so why provoke her intentionally?" I met his gaze with indifference and responded with cutting sarcasm. "A mistress who kissed my fiancé, you expect me to treat her kindly? You're delusional." Fiona was momentarily speechless, glancing at the growing crowd of onlookers around us. He suppressed his anger and continued. "Sky was pushed to the brink by all the hate comments and tried to take her own life. I need to stay with her tonight. You." I cut him off with a dismissive nod and left the hospital without another word. When I got home, I briefly explained the situation to my parents before retreating to my room for a good night's sleep. The next day, with nothing on my schedule, I spent the entire day idly lounging around the house. Just as I got up, there was a knock at the door. I opened it to find Fiona standing there, looking utterly drained. "Liv, I brought you some food." I glanced at the bag in his hand, amused, and blocked the doorway as I asked, "Did Sky eat?" Ignoring me, he walked straight into the living room, placed the bag on the dining table, and finally replied. "She ate. Liv, I know this is all my fault. But Sky was driven to attempt suicide. After you clarify things, we can have the wedding again. Please?" His words were earnest, his tone sincere, as if it wasn't him who locked me in the dressing room on our wedding day. As if it wasn't him who gave my wedding gown to his precious sister. So, I refuse. "Liv, we've been together for 8 years. You're just overwhelmed right now. Give it some time and you'll come around. Come on, try the food I brought." It was only then that I realized how had I not noticed before. Fiona had such thick skin. Not only did she completely misunderstand what I was saying, but she was also persistently lost in her own world. Watching her utterly nonchalant attitude, I couldn't help but speak coldly. "Fiona, are you out of your mind? I've told you before we're done. Now, please leave." Fiona froze in the middle of arranging some boxes, clearly stunned. She turned to look at me with disbelief written all over her face. A moment later, she walked over, her expression wounded. "Liv, I know I was wrong. Please forgive me, okay?" Fiona reached out to hold my hand, but I dodged her touch. When she tried to embrace me, I took a step back only to bump into a solid shoulder. "Ethan?" Ethan nodded, pulling me into his arms with a playful pout. "Today's my birthday, but I'm all alone. Will you spend it with me?" His pleading gaze left me momentarily frozen. We had grown up together, childhood best friends. If he hadn't gone abroad for college after high school, we probably would have remained the closest of companions. But now, seeing my hesitation, Ethan's eyes reddened, and tears began to roll down his cheeks. Grasping my hand, he pleaded in a soft voice. "It's been so long since we've seen each other. Is it really so hard to spend one birthday with me?" A man's tears can crumble a woman's resolve. I admitted I softened, so, at Ethan's invitation, Fiona and I went to his place. At first, everything went smoothly. But when it came time to make a wish, Ethan suddenly turned to look at me with a serious expression. "My greatest wish in this life is to marry Olivia." From the moment I first understood love until this very day, my biggest dream has always been to marry Olivia. So, will you marry me? Fiona tried to step forward to intervene, but was quickly restrained by one of Ethan's friends, who pulled her aside, leaving her dumbfounded by this dramatic turn of events. I, too, was stunned by everything unfolding before me. Before I could process it, Ethan was already down on one knee, pulling a ring from a small box and holding it out to me. Liv, I know I came back too late, and you've already met him. But I was ready to give up until I saw how he treated you. How could I? We've known each other since we were kids. From the moment I first fell for you until now, you've been the only one I've ever loved. Marry me. The diamond on the ring was blinding, catching the light from the chandelier above. His gaze burned with the same intensity as it did years ago in high school when he carried my backpack and asked which college I wanted to attend. When I felt down about my grades, he held my hand and comforted me. Back then, just like now, his eyes were filled with unwavering devotion as he looked at me. Caught in the moment, surrounded by the cheering crowd, I was about to help Ethan up when he clung to my hand like a child, pouting and pleading. Say yes, please. Okay. As he slipped the ring onto my finger, all I could see was the tearful, earnest expression on Ethan's face, so vulnerable. It stirred something tender in me. Behind us, Fiona struggled to break free, eventually managing to shout, Liv. I turned to look at her, only to find her red-eyed, her gaze filled with desperation. We've been together for 8 years. Are you really going to throw that away for him? She knew I was susceptible to emotional appeals, but only when they came from someone I loved. So now I simply held Ethan close, brushing past her with impatience. This has been his lifelong dream. It's just a marriage license. Why do you have to make such a big deal out of it? Fiona broke free from her restraints and blocked our path, tears streaming down her face as she begged. Liv, I know you're mad at me, but I had no interest in hearing her excuses. Walking past her without a second glance, I followed Ethan to the next party. By the time all the celebrations were over, the sky had already begun to brighten. I let go of Ethan's hand and said, Thanks for yesterday. That was quite the performance. Ethan, who had seemed a bit tipsy, instantly sobered up. He looked me straight in the eye, his face serious. I wasn't acting, I meant every word. I froze, caught off guard. What? Lowering his head, his gaze softened, full of emotion. Even the hand I had just released was once again enveloped in his warm grip. I said, I wasn't acting. I've loved you for so many years. From the moment I first fell for you until now, you've been the only one I've ever loved. I stood there, completely stunned. It wasn't that I hadn't sensed his feelings, but after ending an exhausting 8-year entanglement, I had no desire to jump into another relationship. All I wanted was to go home and get a good night's sleep. Just as I was about to brush it off, Ethan pulled me into his arms. The rising sun cast its glow on both of us, and neither of us noticed how the shadows behind us had begun to intertwine, just like they had countless times before. In the future he envisioned, I was always a part of it. I'm serious. You've met my parents. If we're together, we can completely avoid any issues between you and my mom. If you're still worried, I can move in with your family and live with your parents. After all, they've always treated me really well, Ethan said. Plus, I have a solid educational background, and I'm currently working on my startup. Although it's still in its early stages, the income is relatively stable for now, he added. Sure, I might not be earning millions a month, but pulling in tens of thousands is very doable. Our future, as he rambled on, my thoughts started to wander. I was trying to come up with a reason to turn him down when he suddenly stopped walking. His eyes reddened, and he looked at me with a choked voice. Liv, please don't make me cry, okay? In that moment, my heart skipped a beat. I must have been drunk last night. Otherwise, how else could I explain getting a marriage license with Ethan so soon after we started dating? As I stared at the bright red marriage certificate in my hand, the whole thing felt surreal. But it didn't matter, I've made mistakes in the past, but moving forward, I'm going to tread carefully. Even if I fail, I've never lacked the courage to start over. While Ethan might not necessarily give me that chance, his smile, impossible to suppress, was contagious. I was still fretting over how to break the news to my parents when Ethan had already posted a picture of our marriage license on social media. Walking home hand in hand, Ethan glanced down at me every so often. The dazzling sunlight illuminated his profile, bathing him in a golden glow that rendered him gentle and charming. His Adam's apple moved rhythmically as he spoke, and the necklace resting on his collarbone caught the light perfectly. Every detail seemed tailored to my preferences. Ethan noticed my gaze, and I saw his ears start to redden. Just as I was about to laugh, we suddenly ran into Fiona at the doorstep of my house. Fiona was holding a bouquet of flowers, his eyes landing on our joined hands. I instinctively tried to pull my hand back, but Ethan tightened his grip. Fiona looked visibly distressed, his gaze filled with guilt. "Liv, I really know I messed up. Please forgive me," he pleaded. I glanced behind him, surprised to see no one accompanying him, and countered, "Where's Sky?" Fiona immediately lowered his head, and from his halting words, I learned that the scandal had escalated to the point where his parents inevitably found out and were furious. They had sent Sky abroad, cut off all her financial support, and within 3 days, rumors spread that she was mugged and assaulted multiple times. Fiona had tried to help her, but his parents confiscated all his assets and ordered him to win me back, or else they'd transfer the family fortune entirely to his younger brother. When I heard all this, I couldn't help but laugh. Looking at the flowers in his hand, I sneered, "Fiona, you're not here to ask for my forgiveness. You just can't accept the fact that you're about to lose everything. After all, as far as I know, your younger brother is far more capable than you. If he inherits the family fortune, your future won't be pretty," I continued. Seeing his panicked expression, I coldly dismissed him. "But what does any of this have to do with me? Step aside, I need to go home." Fiona's face turned pale. His brother, who had been emotionally detached since childhood, was notoriously indifferent to family ties. Given how Fiona had bullied him growing up, if his brother gained power, Fiona's fate would undoubtedly be grim. Just as Fiona seemed ready to beg me further, he suddenly noticed someone observing us. Panicking, he turned to leave, but he was quickly shoved into a burlap sack and dragged to the coast. "Brother, didn't you love playing these kinds of games with me when we were kids? Let's play again, shall we?" "No, please no." Of course, I wasn't aware of how things unfolded afterward. Planning another wedding was already enough to keep me busy, especially since Ethan insisted on handling everything personally, even minor tasks like choosing wedding favors and writing invitations. He often said, "Liv, marrying you is the greatest happiness of my life."